every fan of video games has at least one specific game, maybe more, that they continue coming back to month after month, year after year, constantly. Maybe it's the gameplay, maybe it's the story, but whatever it is, it keeps you playing and always leaves you wanting more. One of these games for me, a very important experience that's extremely close to my heart, is the original Prototype. I'll be talking about both games in this video, but I'll mainly be focusing on the first, as I vastly prefer it to the sequel. Today we'll be covering why I believe the Prototype series deserves another shot at the big time, as well as just generally talk about the game because it's so awesome. Let's go ahead and just jump into this shit.
Underutilized ideas.
I want to start off this segment by discussing the most memorable part of the Prototype series, the superpowers. Alex Mercer's power set involves the complete and total manipulation of biomass, which essentially means he can harness organic matter and warp it to his will. Simply put, he eats your fucking bones and turns your guts into a sword. The more biomass Alex consumes, the more powerful he becomes, because he's packing more and more moldable organic mass into the confines of his human form. At full health, Alex Mercer probably weighs hundreds and hundreds of pounds, because his body is a flesh cage for countless innocent minds, bodies, and souls. It's pretty fucking grotesque when you think about it, and if you continue thinking about it, you may come to the realization that Alex Mercer can pretty much do anything with these shape-shifting powers. Somehow, he can convert biomass into metal. Maybe this isn't actual metal, but it's something close, so he's not even limited to purely organic forms, as illustrated by this weird exoskeleton armor. So here we have a man, a living virus, sorry, spoilers, the game's like a decade old, who can transform any part of his being into anything he can imagine. So why, dear God, why are Alex Mercer's powers so fucking lame? Swords for arms, spooky stabby claws, hammer hands. And yes, I know they're called hammer fists, but why didn't they call them hammer hands? That's like amazing alliteration. Look, these powers aren't out and out bad. Not at all. Throwing your fucking hammer hands across the city is and always will be an absolute joy. But judging by the full extent of what Alex Mercer can conceptually do, these powers are pretty limited in scope. Make him turn his head into a fucking saw blade. Have him eject biomass creatures from his body that can help him in battle. Turn his legs into cannons that he can rocket jump across the city with. Fuck it, the options are limitless. I'm not saying those are great examples of what you can do with the powers, but it's a start. It's more than a sword and a whip. Now, I do not know why Prototype didn't take full advantage of all the possibilities, but I can definitely see it being a result of the hardware limitations of the time, seeing as this game is nearly 10 years old. I'm sure the game engine was already chugging, putting this crazy amount of NPCs on screen, or maybe it was a limitation of the Ultimate Destruction framework that Free Radical was working with. In case you don't know, Radical also made Hulk Ultimate Destruction, one of the most entertaining superhero games of the mid-2000s, a game that was really ahead of the curve when it comes to free roam stuff. Now, looking at them side by side, I'm sure you can tell that Prototype is just white guy ultimate destruction, and maybe that ended up being a design limitation of sorts. They did try to mix up the formula by adding a stealth element, but I feel like that never really worked in either of the games. Stealth is an odd component of these games, but we're gonna shelve that topic for now and get into it later on. The point I'm making in this segment is also the main reason that I feel like Prototype deserves another shot. The power set holds so much potential. But that's not the only aspect of Prototype with room for improvement. Let's move on to the ultra gritty, tough as nails, very important, super serious story of Prototype.
Would it kill you to smile?
The last person responsible for all of this dies tonight.
If we make it out of here, you think you're ready?
I was made for this.
God, this game takes itself so seriously. Crack a joke, man. Have some fun.
And for God's sake, man, put some fucking clothes on.
Well, maybe that's too much fun. Alex Mercer is a character. Maybe. I don't really remember because he's boring as all fucking hell. If you don't know the story of Prototype, I'll sum it up for you real quick and save you a trip to those chuggy-ass wiki pages. Alex Mercer wakes up on a morgue slab, declared dead but totally alive in a New York in which a deadly virus has begun to spread. Racked with amnesia, it's up to Alex to find out who he really is and save the Big Apple from total destruction, all the while murdering thousands of innocent people to make his sword arms thicker. Do you see the contrast here? Of course, Prototype isn't played up as a classic superhero story. I mean, shit, these are the guy's first lines.
My name is Alex Mercer. I'm the reason for all of this. They call me a killer, a monster, a terrorist. I'm all of these things.
Can I just say, That is the only good line in the entire game. It's like they pooled all of their writing efforts to that one really badass line, and then just shoved the rest off to an intern. But as I was saying, Prototype isn't your classic superhero story. It's more of a modern military thriller than anything, which makes sense seeing as this game came out during the height of the modern military craze. Mixing a Jason Bourne-esque thriller with a hyper-violent superhero story is actually kind of interesting in concept, but in execution it falls flat because it has nothing interesting to say, and it just ends up being really fucking boring. Okay, the government's bad, I get that. Is that all we're doing here for 20 hours? I've come to the conclusion after playing both of these games that the main problem with Prototype's story, besides the weird juxtaposition of the hero of the story casually genociding a few million people, and the generally weird tone, and bad dialogue, and lame character development. There's a lot of problems. But the true root of most of these issues is the fact that this game just takes itself so goddamn seriously. Holy fuck, who was it? These guys. These guys must be hella unpopular at parties. The Prototype series could definitely benefit from lightening the fuck up a little bit. Sure, the second game did try to integrate a bit more of a whimsical tone, but it didn't really work for me outside of James Heller's manic frustration with keyboards.
I'm at the computer. What do I press?
First, you need
I'm pressing the red button. Shit. Now the screen's all fucked up. Shit's broken.
Okay, press the alternate key. ALT alternate.
Alt. There's no fucking alt. I got a fucking squiggly line key. I got a fucking key with a triangle on it. What the fuck kind of keyboard is this anyway?
Oh, James, calm down. There should be a button with a blue square on it.
Okay. That's more like it.
Which was Shakespearean, by the way. There are a few comical and entertaining moments in the stories of Prototype 1 and 2, but that's just what they are. Few and far between, which I feel like could link back to the fact that everybody in the series is a shell of a husk, of a concept, of a wisp of a character. I'm sorry, but Alex Mercer is a goth-ass piece of wood in that first game. He looks like someone who would walk through the crowd of a Cure concert just stabbing people, which is appropriate seeing as half the words that limp out of this dude's mouth sound like entries in Robert Smith's Panic Notebook.
Can't remember.
Who is this?
I need your help. Do you know what happened? Any idea what this all means? There's nothing left there.
My own body wanted me dead.
I don't understand. He did this to me, and I'm gonna find out why.
I was made for this.
But no amount of dramatic questions and hoarse whispering can cure bad writing. Sunk that shit! Full circle! And Alex isn't the only one with the personality of a hard-boiled egg. The Prototype series is packed to the brim with characters that I couldn't give a fuck about if I tried, which makes the convoluted Jason Bourne-ass story really hard to care about or follow, because not even the craziest plot twists can prop up a game in which all the dialogue is being delivered by walls of drying paint. Just ask Venom Snake. So essentially what I'm saying here is that these stories have always sucked, and I want them to not suck. I feel like Prototype could really benefit from trimming the fat of its story and focusing more on creating compelling characters who say and do shit that I give a fuck about. And a sense of humor would go a long way to getting us there. A good story starts with good characters, and I'm not saying you don't need good story structure or solid dialogue when you're writing something more comedic than dramatic, but making people laugh is better than making people sigh and scowl all the way through your game. But hey, let's be honest. People don't come to Prototype for the story. People come to body surf. Let's talk about the gameplay of this bananas-ass series.
Gameplay, also known as violent catharsis.
From literally the first second of Prototype's gameplay, it fully commits to being all about insane action. Prototype's combat system is not the most reliable, responsive, or smooth combat system you're gonna find in an open world game, far from it. But it more than serves its purpose, that purpose being to make the player feel like a god of death. This is kind of a random aside, but remember the glory kill mechanic from Doom that everybody was busting nuts about because it was so creative and satisfying? Well, Prototype did that shit 8 years ago. I've been playing this game on and off for those 8 years now, entirely because the action in Prototype feels viscerally satisfying as fuck. No game today can give me the experience of blowing up a tank with my sock and bopper fists and throwing it into a crowd of innocent people. I just can't get that anywhere else.
More fun than a pillow fight!
Another aspect of Prototype that I can't get anywhere else, besides Saints Row now, which is weird, is the fantastic traversal. Prototype straight up has one of the best jumps in video game history. It feels great, it looks awesome, and the ability to charge jumps in midair as well as air dash allows for a surprising amount of precision when traversing the giant concrete jungle of New York. I'm not really gonna get into why I dislike Prototype 2 so much. Gonna save that for another video coming up soon. But one of the biggest sins of that game was changing the jump mechanic. In Prototype 2, your jump starts when you press the jump button and continues until it's released, which I'm sure sounded more efficient in concept, but it totally takes away the satisfying oomph of charging up a massive leap. But traversal doesn't mean anything if there isn't an interesting environment to traverse, and Prototype has a pretty solid environment. By about 3 or 4 hours into the story, New York has gone fucking bugnuts insane, and has been split into a bunch of different zones that fall into one of 3 categories: safe, infected, or in between. It's so cool to go from one zone to another and watch the atmosphere, colors, and sound design completely evolve around Alex as he goes. Sure, by today's graphical standards, these buildings do look like a bunch of cardboard boxes, but it's that engaging atmosphere that really matters, as well as the amount of movement that's packed into these streets. The New York of Prototype is a bustling, hectic place with what feels like hundreds of NPCs milling around the screen at any given time. This level of on-screen craziness is a huge part of what makes Prototype unique, and I would fucking love to see what the technology of today could do with that concept. Speaking of another concept that I'd love to see what today's technology can do with, lengthy segue, the stealth segments in Prototype could certainly use a tune-up. This series was not built for sneaky sleuthin', and it does not even try to accommodate for that. Being stealthy is kind of a given, seeing as the main character is a shapeshifter, but you're given very limited options, and surprisingly, stealth loses all of its tension when everybody around you is a complete fucking idiot. Giving humans the hive mind of panicked ants works during free roaming and huge set pieces, but it completely saps any entertainment that these stealth segments could have potentially held. Plus, all of the stealth moves are context sensitive, so the open world feeling of creative problem solving and thinking on your feet is totally lost. Which leads me to a question I'd like to ask you, dear viewer. If Prototype ever came back for a third entry to the series, would you like to see these stealth segments return? I personally believe that those resources could be spent elsewhere, improving the reactivity of the open world and adding even crazier powers to the player's arsenal. But I could also see these stealth segments becoming really cool if more thought was put into them. Yeah, Solid Snake can sneak under boxes, but with Alex's power set, you could literally become the box. You are the box, Alex. I know Alex Mercer blending in by, turning into a vending machine seems a little out of place, but honestly, I feel like that'd be fine, seeing as this series has raised the stupid bar so high at this point that we would need a pole vault to hit that shit. So I'm curious, what do you think? Stealth segments in a new Prototype, yay or nay? Either way, regardless of what you think of the shoddy stealth segments, I think we can all agree that Prototype includes some of the most balls-out action available on the PS3 or Xbox 360, bar none. Like I said earlier, this series has a vibe that I can't find anywhere else nowadays, and I'm not sure why. There aren't a lot of free-roam games like Prototype these days. It seems as if the trend has shifted away from power fantasies and more towards survival. Some of the biggest free-roam games of the past few years have been Horizon Zero Dawn, Rust, Breath of the Wild, Ark, and No Man's Sky. Looking back to when Prototype came out, a lot of the free roam games were stuff like Just Cause 2, The Saboteur, Crackdown, Red Faction Guerrilla, and Saints Row 2. I'm sure you can see the general de-escalation of craziness here, and I think that's a big reason as to why Prototype probably isn't coming back anytime soon. There isn't really a demand for this type of game, or the brand itself, which is sad, because a Prototype game would be an extremely welcome change of pace nowadays. Prototype isn't about survival, or crafting, or cooking just enough meat to outrun the wolves for one more day. Prototype is about violent catharsis. Someone cut you off in traffic on the way to work? Pop in Prototype and cut everybody off from their lives. Crying baby ruining your theater experience? Just go home and pretend this guy is a baby and crush his baby head with your massive hands. Or play Dead Space so you can kick the baby until it dies. This video is now top 10 video games in which to kill babies. Number 10, The Sims. Sims is great for killing babies because you get to put them right on the stove. You get it though. Playing Prototype is almost fucking therapeutic. Knocking around these Raggedy Andy-ass civilians is a simple pleasure, but it's one that I've come back to for nearly a decade now, and I would do anything to get a new and improved version of that.
In conclusion,
I think I've said all I need to say about Prototype. I'm sure you understand, but I just want to make it crystal clear one last time. I fucking love this game. It's ridiculous and hammy and delightful in a way that only Prototype can be. And I really think this series deserves another shot. Give this IP to a passionate team of talented people, and I honestly believe that it would fucking rake in the buku bucks. Get on that shit. Whoever owns the rights.